A ghostly shadow stalks the golden fields of St. Mary Mead, and a cursed harvest threatens to unravel the village's peace. Welcome to Miss Marple and the Haunted Harvest, a cozy mystery packed with chilling twists. Grab a cup of tea, take a seat, and dive into this eerie tale. If you're hooked on the suspense, hit that subscribe button. Your support means the world to us. Chapter 1. The Village in Autumn's Grip. The camera sweeps over St. Mary Mead, a sleepy English village tucked between rolling hills, where autumn paints the landscape in fiery shades of crimson, amber, and gold. Leaves tumble across cobblestone paths, and the air carries the scent of wood smoke and ripe apples. Villagers are busy preparing for the annual harvest festival, stringing up lanterns and piling pumpkins high. But there's a tension in their smiles, a hush in their voices. Something's wrong this year. Crops are wilting overnight. Strange lights flicker in the cornfields, and rumours swirl of a ghostly figure haunting the harvest. This is where we meet Miss Jane Marple, our sharp-witted, silver-haired sleuth, knitting quietly in her rose-covered cottage. She solved mysteries from stolen jewels to village scandals, and now a cryptic note has landed at her doorstep, pulling her into a puzzle that could shake St. Mary Mead to its core. Today, we're diving into the first chapter of this spooky tale, starting with Miss Marple's discovery of that note and her first steps to uncover the truth behind the haunted harvest. Miss Marple sits by her fireplace, her knitting needles clicking rhythmically as she sips a steaming cup of Earl Grey. Her cottage is a cozy haven, with lace curtains and shelves lined with well-worn books. But this morning, something disrupts her routine. As she steps to her front door to collect the milk, she spots a crumpled piece of paper tucked beneath the mat. It's not a festival flyer or a neighbour's note. It's something far stranger. Scrawled in shaky, uneven handwriting are the words, "The harvest hides the truth. Beware the reaper's shadow." No name, no signature, just this eerie message. Miss Marple's eyebrows lift slightly. She's no stranger to village secrets. After all, she's unravelled mysteries that stumped even the police. But this note feels different. It's not just gossip or a prank. It carries a weight, a warning. She folds it carefully and slips it into her cardigan pocket, her mind already buzzing with questions. Who left it? And what truth is hiding in the harvest? Stepping outside, Miss Marple pulls on her tweed coat and heads toward the village square. The autumn sun is low, casting long shadows across the cobblestones. The square is alive with festival preparations. Children giggle as they hang garlands of dried corn husks. Farmers stack barrels of cider. And the vicar, Mr. Clement, polishes the church bell until it gleams. But Miss Marple notices the undercurrent of unease. Mrs. Hattie, the baker, is whispering to Mr. Green, the grocer, their eyes darting toward the fields beyond the village. Those fields, usually lush with golden corn and wheat, look patchy this year, as if something's draining their life. Some stalks stand tall, while others are wilted, their tips blackened like they've been scorched. Miss Marple's seen enough of human nature to know that fear spreads faster than fire, and the villagers are scared. She approaches young Tommy, the butcher's boy, who's setting up a cider stall. He's about 16, all freckles and nervous energy, his cap pulled low over his eyes. "Morning, Miss Marple," he says, but his voice wavers. She smiles warmly, knowing a kind word can loosen tongues. "Tommy, you've been out early for deliveries, haven't you? Notice anything odd lately?" Tommy hesitates, then leans closer. "It's the fields, miss. I was dropping off chops at the old mill last night, and I heard whispering, not like people talking, but eerie, like the wind had a voice, coming from the corn." His eyes widen, and he glances over his shoulder, as if the fields might hear him. Miss Marple nods, her calm demeanour hiding the spark of curiosity in her chest. She's heard the old village tales, stories of a reaper's ghost tied to a tragedy centuries ago when a farmer vanished under a harvest moon, never to be seen again. Could it be just folklore? Or is something more sinister stirring? Determined to dig deeper, Miss Marple decides to visit the church, where the vicar might shed light on the village's history. The Church of St. Mary Mead is a stone building with ivy creeping up its walls, its stained glass windows glowing with scenes of saints and shepherds. Inside it's cool and quiet, the air smelling faintly of wax and old wood. Mr. Clement is polishing a brass candlestick, but his hands tremble slightly, and his face is pale. "Jane," he says, looking up, "I'm glad you're here. The villagers are frightened. They say the harvest is cursed, crops dying, tools vanishing from barns. Some claim they've seen a figure in the fields at night, tall and shadowy, holding a scythe." Miss Marple listens carefully, her knitting hands still for once. She knows fear can twist what people see, but she also trusts the villagers' instincts. A cursed harvest, a shadowy figure? It sounds like the kind of mystery that hides a very human truth. She asks Mr. Clement about the old legends, hoping to connect the dots. He lowers his voice, as if the church walls might listen. "There's a story, Jane, from 200 years ago. A farmer named Silas Blackthorne worked those fields. He was greedy, they say, hoarding grain while the village starved. One harvest moon he vanished, poof, gone. Some said he was taken by the reaper's ghost, a spirit of vengeance for his sins. Now, with these strange happenings, folks think the reaper's back." Miss Marple's lips purse slightly. She's not one for ghosts, but she knows stories like these often cloak real crimes. Greed, betrayal, or worse. She thanks the vicar and steps outside, her eyes drawn to the fields where the corn sways under a greying sky. The harvest festival is tomorrow, and if there's truth to this mystery, she needs to act fast. Before heading to the fields, Miss Marple stops by the village post office, where Miss Lavender, the postmistress, is sorting letters. Miss Lavender's a gossip, but a useful one, with a knack for noticing things others miss. "Good day, Miss Lavender," Miss Marple says, her tone light. "Any talk of odd visitors lately?" Miss Lavender adjusts her spectacles, eager to share. "Well, Jane, there's been a stranger poking about. Tall chap, dark coat, seen near the fields at dusk. Nobody knows him, and he's not staying at the inn." Miss Marple's mind sharpens. A stranger in St. Mary Mead is rare, and the timing feels too convenient. Could this be the reaper the villagers are seeing, or someone with a more earthly motive? As the sun dips lower, Miss Marple walks toward the edge of the village, where the fields begin. The cornstalks rustle, their shadows stretching like fingers across the path. She spots a broken fence near the old mill, its weathered boards splintered as if something, or someone, forced their way through. Kneeling down, she notices a glint in the dirt. A small tarnished button, engraved with a tiny wheat sheaf. It's not the kind of thing a farmer would wear. It's too fancy, like something from a city tailor. She pockets it, her mind racing. Is this a clue to the stranger's identity, or something left by accident? The wind picks up, carrying a faint, eerie hum, and Miss Marple feels a chill that's not just from the autumn air. Back in her cottage that evening, Miss Marple spreads the note and the button on her table, studying them by lamplight. The note's warning, "Beware the reaper's shadow," echoes in her mind. She's not convinced it's a ghost, but she knows someone wants the village to believe it is. Is it to scare people away from the fields? To hide something among the crops? Or to sabotage the festival for reasons yet unknown? She sips her tea, her knitting needles still, as she plans her next move. Tomorrow she'll visit the fields herself. But for now, she's got enough to ponder: a cryptic note, a stranger, and a village on edge. That's where we leave Miss Marple for now. Folks with a mystery brewing and the harvest festival looming. She's got her first clues, but the fields hold secrets yet to be uncovered. In the next chapter, we'll follow her into the heart of the cornrows, where something chilling awaits. Stay tuned for more of Miss Marple and the Haunted Harvest. It's only going to get spookier. Chapter 2. Shadows in the Cornrows. The camera glides over the swaying cornfields of St. Mary Mead as dawn breaks, painting the sky in soft pinks and golds. The air is crisp, carrying the earthy scent of turned soil and dew-soaked stalks. Miss Jane Marple stands at the edge of the fields, her tweed coat buttoned against the morning chill, her sharp eyes scanning the rows of corn that stretch like a maze before her. She's here to investigate the eerie happenings that have the village buzzing, a ghostly figure, dying crops, and that cryptic note still tucked in her pocket. Today we're following Miss Marple into the heart of the fields, where the cornrows hide more than just shadows. Something unsettling is waiting, and our clever sleuth is about to uncover a new piece of the puzzle. Miss Marple steps carefully through the broken fence near the old mill, her boots sinking slightly into the soft earth. The cornstalks tower over her, their leaves rustling like whispered secrets. She's no stranger to poking around where others fear to tread, and the tales of a reaper's ghost don't faze her. She's here to find facts, not phantoms. As she moves deeper into the field, the light dims, the stalks closing in like walls. The silence is heavy, broken only by the occasional caw of a crow circling above. She notices patches where the corn is wilted, the stalks brittle and grey, as if poisoned at the root. It's not natural, she thinks, not like blight or drought. Something, or someone, has tampered with this harvest. A faint path, barely visible, winds through the corn, trampled as if someone's been coming and going regularly. Miss Marple follows it, her keen eyes catching details. A snapped stalk here, a scuff mark in the dirt there. The path leads to a small clearing, hidden deep within the field, where the corn parts to reveal a startling sight. A crude circle of stones, each about the size of a loaf of bread, arranged in a deliberate pattern. In the center lies a bundle of dried corn husks, tied with rough twine, and what looks like a smear of dark red on the ground. Paint? Or something worse? Miss Marple kneels, her gloved fingers brushing the stain. It's dry, sticky, and smells faintly metallic. Blood, perhaps, but from what? An animal, or something more sinister? She examines the stone circle, noting how the earth around it is disturbed, as if dug up recently. Her mind races. This feels ritualistic, like something meant to scare or send a message. Could it be tied to the old legend of the Reaper's ghost, crafted to frighten villagers away? Or is it a cover for something more practical, like sabotage? She pulls out a small notebook and sketches the circle's layout, marking the position of each stone. As she does, a faint rustle comes from the corn behind her. She freezes, her heart steady but her senses sharp. The sound stops, then starts again. Closer now, deliberate, like footsteps. "Who's there?" She calls, her voice calm but firm. No answer, just the rustle fading away. She's not alone out here, and whoever it is doesn't want to be seen. Undeterred, Miss Marple presses on, following the path deeper until it ends at a rickety wooden shed, half hidden by overgrown stalks. The shed is old, its planks weathered and splintered, but the lock on the door is new, shiny, and out of place. She circles it, peering through a grimy window. Inside, she glimpses stacks of crates, a lantern, and what looks like a pile of tools, shovels, hose, and something glinting under a tarp. She tries the door, but it's locked tight. Whoever's been here is careful, and that lock suggests they're hiding something valuable or dangerous. She makes a mental note to ask Mr. Green, the grocer, about recent deliveries to the mill. He might know who's been hauling crates out this way. As she turns to leave, her foot catches on something buried in the dirt, a small leather-bound book, its cover worn but intact. She picks it up, brushing off the soil. The pages are filled with numbers, dates, and cryptic shorthand, like a ledger. One entry catches her eye. 10 sacks, mill, midnight, JB. JB! Initials perhaps, but whose? And what were those sacks? Grain? Or something less innocent? She tucks the ledger into her bag, knowing it's another piece of the puzzle. The sun is climbing higher now, and the festival is tonight. Time is short, and she needs to connect these clues. The stone circle, the blood, the locked shed, and this mysterious ledger. On her way back through the corn, Miss Marple notices something else. A scrap of fabric caught on a stalk, dark blue and finely woven like part of a coat. It's similar to the button she found yesterday, with its wheat sheaf engraving. Could it belong to the stranger Miss Lavender mentioned, the one seen skulking near the fields? She adds the fabric to her collection, her mind piecing together possibilities. Someone's been using these fields as a hiding place, but for what? To scare the villagers? To ruin the harvest? Or to cover up a crime? She knows better than to jump to conclusions, but the evidence is mounting, and it's pointing to something deliberate. Back in the village, Miss Marple stops by the tea shop to gather her thoughts. Mrs. Rose, the shop's owner, pours her a cup of chamomile and chatters about the festival. "Everyone's on edge, Jane," she says, setting down a plate of scones. "They're saying the Reaper's ghost is angry that we've offended it somehow." Miss Marple smiles politely, but her mind is elsewhere. She's thinking about that ledger, the initials JB, and the locked shed. She needs to find out who JB is. And that means talking to someone who knows everyone in St. Mary Mead. Perhaps Mrs. Hattie, the baker, who sees every villager pass through her shop. But Mrs. Hattie's been acting nervous, and Miss Marple wonders if she knows more than she's letting on. As the afternoon fades, the village square is transforming. Lanterns glow, tables groan under piles of apples and pies, and a bonfire is being built for the festival. Miss Marple watches from the tea shop window, her eyes scanning the crowd. She spots a man lingering near the edge of the square, tall and wearing a dark coat. He's too far to see clearly, but he moves with purpose, slipping out of sight toward the mill. Could he be the stranger? Or is he JB? She finishes her tea, her resolve hardening. Tonight's festival will bring the whole village together, and with it, a chance to observe, listen, and uncover more. The camera lingers on Miss Marple as she steps into the fading light, her silhouette small but determined against the golden fields. She's found a hidden circle, a locked shed, a mysterious ledger, and a scrap of fabric. Clues that point to something far from ghostly. The festival is hours away, and with it, the chance to catch a culprit in the act. We'll leave Miss Marple here, her mind sharp and her bag full of evidence. Next time, we'll join her at the Harvest Festival, where the village's secrets start to unravel under the harvest moon. Stay tuned for the next chapter. It's going to be a night to remember. Chapter 3. The Festival. Under the Moon. The camera sweeps over St. Mary Mead's village square as dusk settles, the harvest festival in full swing under a glowing harvest moon. Lanterns cast a warm, golden light, and the bonfire crackles, sending sparks into the night sky. Villagers laugh and dance to a fiddler's tune, their faces lit by flickering flames. But there's a nervous edge to the merriment. The scent of mulled cider and roasted chestnuts fills the air. Yet the fields beyond the square loom dark and silent, their secrets untouched by the festivities. Miss Jane Marple stands quietly near a hay bale, her eyes scanning the crowd. Armed with clues, a cryptic ledger, a scrap of fabric, and memories of a hidden stone circle, she's here to observe, listen, and uncover who's behind the village's eerie troubles. Tonight, under the moon's watchful gaze, the mystery deepens, and Miss Marple is ready to catch a slip in the revelry. Miss Marple sips a cup of cider, blending into the crowd like a shadow. Her unassuming presence, grey hair tucked under a neat hat, her cardigan soft and unremarkable, lets her watch without being noticed. The festival is a whirl of activity. Children bob for apples, farmers show off prize pumpkins, and couples twirl to the music. But Miss Marple's attention is on the edges where secrets often hide. She spots Mrs. Hattie, the baker, handing out loaves of her famous harvest bread, but her hands shake as she passes a tray to a group of farmers. Miss Marple makes her way over, offering a warm smile. "Your bread's the talk of the festival, Mrs. Hattie," she says lightly. "Seen anything unusual tonight?" Mrs. Hattie startles, nearly dropping a loaf. "Oh, Jane, it's just the talk of that ghost. It's got me jumpy." But her eyes dart to the side, avoiding Miss Marple's gaze, and our sleuth knows she's holding something back. Moving through the crowd, Miss Marple overhears snippets of conversation. Two farmers, their voices low, mutter about missing tools and trampled crops near the old mill. A young woman, her shawl pulled tight, whispers to her friend about a strange light she saw in the fields last night. Like a lantern, but moving too fast. Miss Marple files these details away, her mind connecting them to the locked shed she found earlier. She needs to know who's been in those fields, and the festival's bustle is the perfect cover for someone to slip away, or slip up. She spots Tommy, the butcher's boy, juggling apples for a group of children. Catching his eye, she beckons him over. "Tommy," she says quietly, "that stranger you mentioned, the one near the mill, have you seen him tonight?" Tommy shakes his head, but his brow furrows. "Not him, miss, but I saw Mr. Dutton, the miller, heading that way earlier, carrying a sack. Looked heavy, too." This piques Miss Marple's interest. Mr. Dutton, the miller, is a gruff man who keeps to himself, running the old mill near the haunted fields. Could he be J.B., the initials from the ledger? Or is he working with the stranger in the dark coat? She decides to keep an eye on him. As the fiddler strikes up a lively reel, Miss Marple moves toward the bonfire, where villagers are tossing corn husks into the flames for good luck. There, she sees Mr. Dutton himself, standing alone, his face half lit by the fire. He's a burly man with a weathered cap, his hands stuffed in his pockets, but his eyes keep flicking toward the fields. Miss Marple pretends to adjust her shawl, watching him closely. He mutters something to a passing farmer, then slips away from the crowd, heading toward the mill. She follows at a distance, her steps light on the cobblestones. The music fades as she leaves the square, the moon casting long shadows across the path. The mill looms ahead, its silhouette dark against the silver-lit fields. Miss Marple stays low, using a hedge for cover. She sees Mr. Dutton pause at the mill's door, glance around, then unlock it with a key from his pocket. He disappears inside, leaving the door ajar. Miss Marple creeps closer, her heart steady despite the chill in the air. Peering through the crack, she sees him rummaging through a crate, pulling out what looks like a bundle of cloth. Dark blue, like the scrap she found in the fields. Her breath catches. Is this the stranger's coat? Or is Mr. Dutton more involved than she thought? Before she can get a better look, a twig snaps behind her. She turns, but the shadows are empty. The wind carries a faint hum, like the one she heard in the cornrows, and for a moment, she feels the weight of unseen eyes. Shaking it off, she focuses on the mill. Mr. Dutton emerges, locking the door behind him, and heads back to the festival, his sack now slung over his shoulder. Miss Marple waits until he's gone, then examines the mill's lock. It's similar to the one on the shed, sturdy and new. She doesn't have the key, but she notices scuff marks in the dirt, fresh, as if someone's been here recently. Kneeling, she finds another clue. A cigarette butt, still faintly warm, with a faint logo on the paper. It's not a local brand, too fancy for St. Mary Mead's shops. She tucks it into her bag, next to the ledger and fabric. Back at the festival, the bonfire roars higher, and the villagers are singing an old harvest song. Miss Marple rejoins the crowd, her mind racing. The cigarette butt suggests the stranger's presence, and Mr. Dutton's behaviour is suspicious. She needs to know what's in that sack and why he's sneaking around the mill. As she ponders, she spots Miss Lavender, the postmistress, chatting with a group of women. Miss Marple approaches, her tone casual. "Miss Lavender? Any more sightings of that stranger in the dark coat?" Miss Lavender leans in, her voice a whisper. "Not tonight, Jane, but Mrs. Rose saw him near the church yesterday carrying a lantern. Said he looked like he was searching for something." A lantern, Miss Marple thinks, like the light the young woman mentioned. The pieces are starting to fit, but the picture is still blurry. As the festival winds down, the moon climbs higher, bathing the village in silver. Miss Marple lingers by the bonfire, watching the embers glow. She's gathered new clues tonight. Mr. Dutton's sneaky trip to the mill, the blue cloth, the cigarette butt, and whispers of a lantern. Someone's using the festival's chaos to move unnoticed, but Miss Marple's watching. She knows the truth is close, hidden in the shadows of St. Mary Mead. Tomorrow, she'll confront Mr. Dutton and dig into the ledger's cryptic entries. For now, she heads home. Her cottage a warm beacon in the night, her mind alight with possibilities. The camera pulls back, showing Miss Marple's small figure walking through the moonlit village, the fields dark and restless beyond. She's closer to unraveling the mystery, but danger is circling, and the Reaper's shadow looms larger. Next time, we'll follow her to the mill, where a confrontation reveals a startling truth. Stay tuned for the next chapter of Miss Marple and the Haunted Harvest. The stakes are getting higher. Chapter 4. The Miller's Secret. The camera drifts over St. Mary Mead at sunrise, the village bathed in a soft golden glow as mist curls around the old mill's weathered silhouette. The fields are quiet, their secrets locked tight, but Miss Jane Marple is on the move. Her bag holds a growing collection of clues, a cryptic ledger, a scrap of blue fabric, a fancy cigarette butt, and her suspicions are fixed on Mr. Dutton, the miller, whose sneaky behaviour at the Harvest Festival last night raised red flags. Today, she's heading to the mill to confront him, determined to uncover what he's hiding in that locked shed and why he's slipping around with heavy sacks under the cover of darkness. The air is thick with autumn's chill, and as Miss Marple steps onto the path, the mystery of the haunted harvest tightens its grip. Let's follow her to the mill, where a tense encounter reveals a truth that shifts the puzzle's shape. Miss Marple approaches the mill, its great wheel creaking slowly in the morning breeze. The building looms, its stone walls mossy and worn, but the new lock on the door gleams like a warning. She adjusts her hat, her face calm, but her mind sharp as a tack. Mr. Dutton's no fool. He's gruff, private, and not one for idle chatter. But Miss Marple knows how to get answers. She knocks firmly, the sound echoing in the still air. After a long pause, the door creaks open, and Mr. Dutton fills the frame, his broad shoulders blocking the light. His cap is pulled low, and his eyes narrow. "Miss Marple, early for a visit, ain't it?" His voice is rough, but there's a twitch in his jaw, a sign he's on edge. She smiles, undaunted. "Just a neighbourly call, Mr. Dutton. I've been hearing odd tales about the fields, and I thought you might know something." He hesitates, then steps aside, letting her into the mill's dim interior. The air smells of dust and ground wheat, and sacks of flour are stacked against the walls. The crates she glimpsed last night are there, half covered by a tarp, and the blue cloth is gone. Miss Marple keeps her expression neutral, but her eyes miss nothing. She settles onto a wooden stool, folding her hands. "The village is abuzz, Mr. Dutton. Talk of a ghost, missing tools, dying crops, and I saw you at the festival, heading here with a sack. Care to share what's going on?" Her tone is gentle, but her gaze is piercing. Mr. Dutton shifts, wiping his hands on his apron. "Just mill work, Miss Marple. Sacks of grain, nothing more. Folks are jumpy 'cause of old stories." But his eyes flick to the crates, and she knows he's hiding something. Pressing gently, she pulls the ledger from her bag, holding it up. "I found this in the fields, near your shed. It mentions JB and midnight deliveries. That wouldn't be you, would it?" Mr. Dutton's face pales, and he steps back, knocking over a broom. "Where'd you get that?" he snaps, then catches himself, forcing a laugh. "Just accounts, Miss Marple. Business stuff." But his hands are shaking, and she presses on. "Business that involves sneaking around at night, or locking sheds with new bolts?" She pauses, letting the silence weigh on him. Finally he slumps, rubbing his face. "All right, Jane, you've got me. But it ain't what you think. I'm no ghost, and I'm not cursing crops. I'm protecting something." Mr. Dutton glances at the door, then lowers his voice. A few weeks ago, a man came to me. City type, fancy coat, called himself John Barlow. JB offered me good money to store some crates here. No questions asked. Said it was just supplies, but I didn't like his look. Still, times are tight, and the mill's been struggling. Miss Marple nods, her mind racing. John Barlow, J.B., matches the initials in the ledger and the stranger Miss Lavender described. "What's in the crates, Mr. Dutton?" she asks. He hesitates, then pulls back the tarp, revealing wooden boxes stamped with a strange symbol, a wheat sheaf crossed with a scythe. "I don't know exactly," he admits. "He said it's farming equipment, but it's heavy and, well, I heard clinking, like glass." Miss Marple's heart quickens. Glass could mean bottles, chemicals, something to harm crops, perhaps. She thinks of the wilted corn and the blood-like stain in the stone circle. "Did you see him last night?" she asks. Mr. Dutton nods. "He came by, took one crate, left in a hurry, headed toward the river." The river, Miss Marple notes, runs behind the fields, a perfect spot to hide or dispose of something. She stands, brushing dust from her coat. "Thank you, Mr. Dutton. Keep this quiet and don't touch those crates." He nods, looking relieved to unburden himself, but she knows he's still nervous, caught between fear and guilt. As she leaves the mill, the sun is higher, burning off the mist. She walks toward the river, following a narrow path through tall grass. The water glints in the distance, slow and murky, bordered by reeds. Near the bank, she spots fresh footprints, large, deep, like a man's boots, and a flattened patch where something heavy was set down. Kneeling, she finds a broken glass vial, its contents spilled into the mud, leaving a faint, acrid smell. She wraps it carefully in her handkerchief, her mind buzzing. A chemical perhaps to poison the crops, or something else entirely. The wheat sheaf symbol on the crates nags at her. It's too close to the button she found, suggesting a connection. She follows the riverbank, her eyes scanning for more signs. A few yards away, tucked among the reeds, she finds a torn piece of paper, damp but legible. It's a shipping label, addressed to J. Barlow, London, with the same wheat sheaf symbol. This John Barlow is no ghost, but he's leaving a trail. Miss Marple tucks the label away, her thoughts turning to the festival. The stranger was there, moving in the shadows, and now she knows his name. But why is he here? And what's he hiding? In those crates? She needs to find him before he strikes again, and that means checking the village inn for any trace of a city guest. Back in St. Mary Mead, the festival decorations are being cleared, but the air still hums with unease. Miss Marple stops by the inn, where Mr. Pye, the innkeeper, is sweeping the porch. "Morning, Mr. Pye," she says brightly. "Any new guests lately? A Mr. Barlow, perhaps?" Mr. Pye frowns, shaking his head. "No Barlow, Miss Marple, but a man stayed 2 nights ago. Tall, dark coat, paid in cash. Left yesterday, no word where to." She thanks him, her suspicions confirmed. John Barlow is staying, out of sight, but he's close, and the river may hold more answers. As noon approaches, Miss Marple heads home, her cottage a quiet refuge. She spreads her clues on the table. The ledger, fabric, cigarette butt, vial, and now the shipping label. The puzzle is taking shape. A stranger named John Barlow, crates, with a strange symbol, a chemical spill, and a miller caught in the middle. But the why remains elusive. Is Barlow sabotaging the harvest for profit, revenge, or something darker? She'll need to follow the river's trail tomorrow, but for now, she sips her tea, her mind mapping out the next steps. The camera lingers on Miss Marple's cottage, the fields stretching dark and silent beyond. She's unmasked JB as John Barlow and found evidence of something sinister, but the danger is closer than ever. Next time, we'll follow her along the river, where a discovery in the reeds pulls her deeper into the heart of the mystery. Stay tuned for the next chapter. It's going to twist the tale even further. Chapter 5. The River's Hidden Truth. The camera follows the winding river behind St. Mary Mead, its waters glinting under a pale autumn sun. Reeds sway in the breeze, and the distant fields stand silent, their secrets buried deep. Miss Jane Marple walks along the muddy bank, her boots steady despite the uneven ground. Her bag is heavier now, holding a growing collection of clues, a ledger with cryptic initials, a scrap of blue fabric, a fancy cigarette butt, a broken vial, and a shipping label pointing to a stranger named John Barlow. After confronting the miller and learning of Barlow's mysterious crates, Miss Marple is certain the river holds the next piece of the puzzle. The village is still reeling from the harvest festival's uneasy cheer, and whispers of a ghostly reaper linger. But our sleuth is chasing facts, not phantoms. Today she's scouring the riverbank for answers, and what she finds in the reeds will twist the mystery in a chilling new direction. Miss Marple moves carefully, her sharp eyes scanning the river's edge. The water is slow and murky, reflecting the greying sky. She's here because Mr. Dutton saw Barlow heading this way with a crate, and the broken vial she found yesterday, its acrid smell hinting at chemicals, suggests something sinister. The footprints she spotted near the riverbank are her guide, deep and uneven, as if someone was carrying a heavy load. She follows them, noting how they veer into a dense patch of reeds where the bank curves. The air is damp, carrying a faint tang of rot, and the reeds are tall, hiding her from view. As she parts them, she spots something glinting in the mud, a small metal canister, half buried, its surface etched with the same wheat sheaf and scythe symbol she saw on Barlow's crates. She kneels using a stick to pry it free. It's heavy, sealed tight, and marked with a faded warning. Handle with care. Her heart quickens. This isn't farming equipment, as Barlow claimed. The canister's weight and the chemical smell from the vial suggest something dangerous, perhaps a poison meant to ruin the harvest. She wraps it in her scarf, careful not to touch it directly, and tucks it into her bag. But the reeds hold more secrets. A few steps away, she finds a muddy glove, thick and workmanlike, stained with the same dark red she saw in the stone circle. It's too large for a woman's hand, and the fabric is rough, unlike the fine blue cloth she found earlier. Is this Barlow's or someone else's? She adds it to her collection, her mind racing. The riverbank is a dumping ground, a place to hide evidence. But whoever's behind this is getting careless. As she moves deeper along the bank, the footprints lead to a small, overgrown inlet where the river widens. The water here is still, almost stagnant, and something catches her eye. A bundle of cloth floating among the reeds, snagged on a branch. She uses her stick to pull it closer, revealing a soaked sack, its burlap torn. Inside, she finds shards of glass, more vials like the one she picked up yesterday, and a few wilted corn stalks, their roots blackened. The sack has the same wheat sheaf symbol stitched into it, tying it to Barlow's crates. Miss Marple's lips purse. This is no accident. Someone's been poisoning the fields, and the river's their disposal site. But why? To scare the villagers? To drive down land prices? Or to settle an old score? A rustle in the reeds makes her pause. She glances around, her senses sharp, but sees only the sway of stalks in the wind. Still, the feeling of being watched lingers, like a shadow at her back. She moves on, following the bank to where it meets a narrow footbridge. Beneath it, half hidden in the mud, she finds a crumpled map, its edges frayed but legible. It's a rough sketch of St. Mary Mead, with the fields, mill and river marked in ink. A red X sits over the mill, and a dotted line traces from there to the river's inlet, exactly where she's standing. Someone's been planning, and this map is proof. She folds it carefully, her mind turning to John Barlow. Is he the mastermind or just a hired hand? Determined to trace the map's origins, Miss Marple heads back to the village, stopping at the grocer's shop. Mr. Green, the grocer, is stacking apples, his face flushed from the morning's work. She greets him warmly, easing into her question. Mr. Green, you supply the mill, don't you? Any deliveries for a Mr. Barlow, or perhaps some unusual orders? Mr. Green wipes his hands, frowning. No Barlow, but Mr. Dutton's been ordering odd things lately. Chemicals, he said, for cleaning the mill. Came in big cans, not our usual stock. Had to order 'em special from London. Miss Marple nods, her suspicions growing. Chemicals from London, marked with a wheat sheaf symbol, delivered to a miller who's nervous and secretive. The pieces are aligning, but the motive remains elusive. As noon approaches, Miss Marple visits the village library, a small building stuffed with dusty books and old records. Miss Finch, the librarian, is a friend and a treasure trove of local history. Miss Finch, Miss Marple says, setting her bag down. I'm looking into some old land disputes around the fields. Anything about the mill or the Blackthorne family? Miss Finch adjusts her glasses, eager to help. Oh, Jane, the Blackthornes, there's a story. 2 centuries ago, Silas Blackthorne owned those fields. Greedy man, hoarded grain during a famine. After he vanished, his land was split up, but the mill stayed in his family. Mr. Dutton's a distant cousin, you know. Miss Marple's eyes narrow. A family tie to the old legend, and now chemicals in the fields. Could this be about reclaiming lost land, or avenging an old wrong? Leaving the library, Miss Marple walks through the village square, where festival decorations are now gone, leaving only wilted garlands. She spots young Tommy delivering meat to the inn and waves him over. Tommy, you know the river well. Ever see anyone dumping things there? Tommy scratches his head. Not dumping, miss, but I saw a man last week, tall, dark coat, tossing something in the reeds. Looked like he was in a hurry. Miss Marple thanks him, her mind on Barlow. He's been careless, leaving vials, a map, a canister. But carelessness means he's close, and she's closer. As evening falls, Miss Marple returns to her cottage, spreading her new clues on the table. The canister, the glove, the sack, and the map. The wheat sheaf symbol ties them to Barlow, and the chemicals point to sabotage. But the map's red X on the mill suggests a bigger plan. Is Barlow working alone, or is someone in the village, perhaps even Mr. Dutton, more involved? She sips her tea, the fire crackling, and plans her next move. Tomorrow, she'll return to the mill, but this time, she'll bring someone who can open those crates. The camera pulls back, showing Miss Marple's cottage glowing against the darkening fields. The river has given up its secrets. A canister, a sack, a map. But the truth is still murky, and danger lurks closer than she knows. Next time, we'll follow her back to the mill, where the crates reveal a shocking discovery. Stay tuned for the next chapter. The mystery's about to crack wide open. Chapter 6. The Crates Unveiled. The camera pans across St. Mary Mead as morning light spills over the village, gilding the rooftops and casting long shadows from the old mill. The air is sharp with autumn's bite, and the fields beyond stand silent, their secrets growing heavier. Miss Jane Marple walks briskly toward the mill, her bag heavy with clues, a metal canister, a stained glove, a torn sack, a cryptic map, and more, all pointing to a man named John Barlow and a scheme to poison the harvest. After finding evidence of chemicals by the river, she's determined to open the mysterious crates Mr. Dutton, the miller, is hiding. She's enlisted Tommy, the butcher's boy, to help with his nimble fingers and a knack for locks. Today, the mill holds the key to the mystery, and what Miss Marple uncovers inside will turn the tide of this chilling tale. Miss Marple reaches the mill just as the sun clears the trees, its great wheel creaking in the breeze. Tommy waits nearby, clutching a small toolkit he uses for fixing delivery carts. His freckled face is pale, but his eyes shine with excitement. "Ready, miss?" he whispers. She nods, her calm demeanor steadying him. Just the lock, Tommy, and stay quiet. The mill's door is shut, and Mr. Dutton is nowhere in sight. Likely at the market, she hopes. Tommy kneels, working the shiny lock with a thin pick, his hands quick and steady. After a tense moment, a soft click echoes, and the door swings open. Miss Marple gives him a nod of approval, and they slip inside, the air thick with the scent of flour and damp wood. The mill's interior is dim, lit only by slivers of light through cracked shutters. The crates are still there, stacked in a corner, their wheat sheaf and scythe symbols stark against the wood. Miss Marple points to the nearest one, and Tommy pries it open with a crowbar, the nails groaning. Inside, they find rows of glass bottles, each filled with a clear liquid that shimmers faintly green in the light. The bottles are unmarked, but a faint chemical smell wafts up, sharp and bitter, like the broken vial from the river. Miss Marple's lips tighten. This is no cleaning solution, as Mr. Dutton claimed. It's poison, likely the same kind used to blight the crops. She carefully lifts a bottle, noting a tiny label with the same wheat sheaf symbol. Tommy, she says, fetch a sack from over there. We'll need to take one as evidence. As Tommy grabs a burlap sack, Miss Marple examines the crate further, finding a folded paper tucked beneath the bottles. It's a receipt, dated 2 weeks ago, for agricultural supplies from a London supplier, addressed to J. Barlow. The amount is staggering, far more than a small-time schemer could afford. Someone with money is backing Barlow, she realizes, and the stakes are higher than she thought. She slips the receipt into her bag, her mind racing. Poisoning crops could ruin farmers, drive down land prices, or force sales. But who stands to gain? And why St. Mary Mead? A sudden creak from the mill's upper floor makes them freeze. Tommy's eyes widen, and Miss Marple holds a finger to her lips, signaling quiet. The sound comes again, a deliberate step, not the settling of old wood. Someone's here. She motions Tommy toward the crates for cover, and they crouch low, her heart steady despite the danger. The footsteps descend the rickety stairs, and a shadow moves into view. It's not Mr. Dutton, but a tall man in a dark coat, his face half hidden by a scarf. John Barlow. He carries a lantern, unlit, and a small sack slung over his shoulder. He pauses, scanning the room, then moves toward the crates, muttering under his breath. Miss Marple catches the words "last batch" and "tonight." Her pulse quickens. He's planning something, and soon. Barlow doesn't notice the open crate, his focus on a different stack. He pulls out a bottle, inspects it, and tucks it into his sack. As he turns to leave, his foot catches on a loose board, and he curses softly, dropping something small, a key glinting in the dim light. Miss Marple memorizes its shape, knowing it might fit the shed's lock. Barlow doesn't notice, hurrying out the back door toward the fields. She waits until his footsteps fade, then signals Tommy to follow her. They retrieve the key, its surface engraved with the now familiar wheat sheaf symbol. "Good work, Tommy," she whispers, slipping the key into her bag. "Now let's get this bottle to safety and lock up before Mr. Dutton returns." Outside, the morning is bright, but the mill feels oppressive, its secrets spilling out. Miss Marple sends Tommy home with a coin for his trouble, warning him to stay quiet. She heads to the village chemist, Mr. Hayward, a wiry man with a knack for potions and plants. His shop is cluttered with jars and scales, the air sharp with herbs. "Mr. Hayward," she says, presenting the bottle. "Can you tell me what this is?" He peers at it, sniffing cautiously, then frowns. "Nasty stuff, Jane. It's a herbicide, strong enough to kill crops in days. Not sold around here, too dangerous. Where'd you find it?" She sidesteps the question, thanking him and promising to return. The confirmation is chilling. Barlow's poisoning the fields deliberately, but the scale suggests a bigger plan. Back in the village, Miss Marple visits Mrs. Hattie's bakery, hoping to learn more about Barlow's connections. Mrs. Hattie is kneading dough, her face flushed. "Jane, you startled me," she says, her hands trembling. Miss Marple leans in, her voice gentle. "Mrs. Hattie, you've been nervous lately. Seen anyone unusual at the mill or fields?" Mrs. Hattie hesitates, then whispers, "I saw that stranger, Barlow, talking to Mr. Dutton last week. Looked like they were arguing near the river. I didn't tell anyone. Didn't want trouble." Miss Marple nods, piecing it together. Dutton's involved, but perhaps under pressure. Barlow's the key, and that key in her bag might unlock more than just the shed. As afternoon fades, Miss Marple walks to the church to clear her thoughts. The stained glass windows glow, and Mr. Clement is arranging hymnals. She asks about land records, hoping to trace who might profit from ruined crops. He pulls out an old ledger showing the field's owners, mostly small farmers, but one plot near the mill belongs to a London company, recently bought. The name is vague, but the wheat sheaf symbol is on the letterhead. Miss Marple's eyes narrow. A company, not a person, might be behind Barlow's scheme, using him to sabotage the land for profit. Evening settles over St. Mary Mead, the fields dark under a rising moon. Miss Marple returns home, spreading her clues on her table. The bottle, the receipt, the key, and more. Barlow's plan is clear. Poison the harvest, but the why and who remain shadowed. The key might open the shed, where more answers wait. Tomorrow she'll test it. But she knows Barlow's moving tonight, and time is running out. The camera lingers on Miss Marple's cottage, its windows warm against the night. She's cracked open the crates, confirmed the poison, and glimpsed the stranger, but the mystery's heart is still hidden. Next time, we'll follow her to the shed, where the key unlocks a truth that shakes St. Mary Mead. Stay tuned for the next chapter. The net is tightening around the culprit. Chapter 7. The Shed's Dark Secret. The camera glides over the fields of St. Mary Mead as twilight deepens, the cornstalks casting jagged shadows under a crescent moon. The village is quiet, its lights dim after days of festival fervour. But danger stirs in the silence. Miss Jane Marple moves swiftly along a narrow path, her scarf tight against the evening chill. Her bag holds a key engraved with a wheat sheaf and scythe symbol, plucked from the mill where she and Tommy uncovered crates of poisonous herbicide. With John Barlow's plan to sabotage the harvest coming into focus, and a London company possibly pulling the strings, Miss Marple is headed to the locked shed in the fields. The key burns in her pocket, promising answers, but the air feels heavy with unseen eyes. Tonight she'll unlock the shed's secrets, and what she finds will pull her closer to the heart of this chilling mystery. Miss Marple reaches the shed, its weathered planks blending into the cornrows like a ghost. The new lock gleams, a stark contrast to the rotting wood. She glances around, the rustle of stalks the only sound, but her instincts prickle. She's not alone. Slipping the key into the lock, she turns it, and the mechanism clicks smoothly. The door creaks open, revealing a dark interior that smells of oil and damp earth. She pulls a small torch from her bag, its beam cutting through the gloom. Inside, the shed is cramped, filled with more crates stamped with the wheat sheaf symbol, a stack of empty sacks, and a workbench cluttered with tools. But it's what's on the workbench that stops her cold. A pile of glass vials, some broken, their green-tinted contents staining the wood, and a notebook filled with detailed maps of the fields, each marked with red circles where crops have died. She flips through the notebook, her torch steady. The pages list dates, quantities of herbicide, and locations for application, with notes like West Field, 2 litres, night of 10th. It's a meticulous plan to ruin specific plots, and the handwriting matches the cryptic note she found days ago. The harvest hides the truth. Miss Marple's mind races. This isn't random sabotage, it's targeted, precise, designed to cripple certain farms. But whose? She tucks the notebook into her bag, then examines the crates. Prying one open, she finds more bottles of herbicide, but also something unexpected. A small metal box, locked, with the same wheat sheaf symbol. It's too heavy for her to carry, but she suspects it holds something crucial, perhaps documents or money tying Barlow to his backers. A faint scrape outside makes her switch off the torch, plunging the shed into darkness. She crouches behind the crates, her breath shallow. Footsteps crunch on the path, slow and deliberate, stopping just outside the door. A low voice mutters, "Should have checked the lock." It's not Barlow's city accent, but rougher, local, Mr. Dutton, the miller. The door pushes open, and his bulky frame fills the entrance, a lantern in his hand. He steps inside, his light sweeping the shed, and freezes when he sees the open crate. "Who's been here?" he growls, his voice tight with panic. Miss Marple stays still, her heart steady despite the risk. Dutton rummages through the workbench, cursing under his breath, then grabs a vial and shoves it into his coat. He's about to leave when a second set of footsteps approaches, faster, heavier. "Dutton!" A sharp voice snaps. Barlow, unmistakable with his clipped tone. Miss Marple peers through a gap in the crates, seeing the tall stranger in his dark coat, his scarf gone, revealing a lean face with cold eyes. "You left the shed open, you fool," Barlow hisses. Dutton bristles. "I didn't. I locked it last night." Their argument grows heated, and Miss Marple catches fragments. Barlow accusing Dutton of carelessness, Dutton insisting he's done his part. "The company's paying for results," Barlow says, "and if you mess this up, we're both done." Dutton mutters something about too much risk, but Barlow cuts him off. "Finish the Westfield tonight, or you'll regret it." They leave, their voices fading into the corn, unaware of the sleuth in the shadows. Miss Marple waits, counting to 100 before emerging. Her mind whirls with what she's heard. Dutton's working with Barlow, but reluctantly, caught in a scheme backed by a mysterious company. The Westfield is next, and tonight's the deadline. She needs to act fast, but first, she examines the metal box again, testing its lock. The key from the mill doesn't fit, but she notices a faint scratch on the lid, as if someone tried to force it open. She leaves it for now, knowing she can't carry it without being seen. Slipping out of the shed, she relocks the door, her torch off to avoid detection. The fields are dark, but the moon casts enough light to guide her back to the village. She heads to the home of Mrs. Rose, the tea shop owner, who lives near the Westfield and keeps a sharp eye on her neighbours. Mrs. Rose is sipping cocoa by her fire when Miss Marple knocks. "Jane, at this hour?" she says, ushering her in. Miss Marple wastes no time. "Mrs. Rose, have you seen anything odd near the Westfield? Lights, people moving at night?" Mrs. Rose nods, her face serious. "Last night I saw a man with a lantern near the old oak by the field. Tall in a dark coat. He was digging, Jane, like he was hiding something." Digging, Miss Marple thinks, perhaps more canisters or evidence. She thanks Mrs. Rose and promises to explain later, her mind already on the Westfield. Before heading there, she stops by the village post office, hoping Miss Lavender has seen more of Barlow. The postmistress is closing up, her spectacles glinting in the lamplight. "Miss Lavender," Miss Marple says, "any letters or packages for John Barlow recently?" Miss Lavender thinks, then nods. "One came yesterday, Jane, from London. Thick envelope, marked urgent, with a wheat sheaf stamp. I sent it to the inn, but he never picked it up." Miss Marple's eyes light up. An unclaimed letter could hold answers, orders, names, or proof of the company's role. She thanks Miss Lavender and heads to the inn, but Mr. Pye confirms the letter's gone. Someone took it this morning, no questions asked. As night deepens, Miss Marple walks to the Westfield, keeping to the shadows. The old oak Mrs. Rose mentioned stands like a sentinel, its branches stark against the sky. Near its roots the earth is disturbed, freshly turned. She kneels, digging with her hands, and uncovers a small canvas bag. Inside is a bundle of papers, letters, all stamped with the wheat sheaf symbol addressed to Barlow. One mentions a final payment for clearing the land, signed only with initials. C.W. Miss Marple tucks the bag away, her heart racing. C.W. is a new player, and the Westfield is in danger tonight. The camera lingers on Miss Marple, standing alone by the oak. The field's dark and restless around her. She's unlocked the shed, overheard a plot, and found papers that point to a bigger scheme. But Barlow and Dutton are moving, and the clock is ticking. Next time, we'll follow her to the West Field, where a nighttime stakeout brings her face to face with danger. Stay tuned for the next chapter. The truth is almost within reach. Chapter 8. The stakeout in the West Field. The camera sweeps over the West Field of St. Mary Mead, where cornstalks stand like silent sentinels under a starlit sky. The moon is thin, casting faint silver light, and the air hums with the quiet tension of night. Miss Jane Marple crouches behind the gnarled old oak, her coat blending into the shadows. Her bag is stuffed with evidence, a notebook from the shed, letters stamped with a wheat sheaf symbol, and more, all pointing to John Barlow's plot to poison the harvest, with the miller, Mr. Dutton, as his reluctant accomplice and a mysterious London company pulling the strings. After overhearing their plan to target the West Field tonight, Miss Marple is here for a stakeout, determined to catch them in the act. The village sleeps, unaware of the danger, but our sleuth's eyes are sharp, and the night promises revelations that will shake the mystery wide open. Miss Marple adjusts her scarf, the autumn chill seeping through her coat. The West Field stretches before her, its rows of corn swaying gently, some patches already wilting from Barlow's poison. She's chosen this spot by the oak because Mrs. Rose saw Barlow digging here, and the freshly turned earth yielded letters hinting at a final payment, signed by someone named C.W. Her plan is simple. Watch, listen, and gather proof before Barlow and Dutton can do more harm. She settles against the tree, her torch off to avoid detection, her senses tuned to every sound. The night is alive with soft noises, crickets, rustling leaves, the distant hoot of an owl, but she's listening for footsteps, voices, or the clink of glass vials. An hour passes, her knees stiff but her focus unwavering. Then a faint glow flickers in the distance, near the field's edge, a lantern moving low, weaving through the corn. She squints, catching the outline of a tall figure. Barlow, unmistakable in his dark coat, carrying a sack. He's alone, his movements quick and furtive, pausing to glance around. Miss Marple holds her breath, her hand resting on the canvas bag of letters in case she needs to move. Barlow stops in a clearing, not far from where she found the stone circle days ago, and kneels, pulling bottles from his sack. The green-tinted herbicide glints in the lantern's light as he pours it carefully onto the soil, the liquid seeping into the roots of healthy cornstalks. She clenches her fist. This is the proof she needs, but she must see what else he does. As Barlow works, a second figure emerges from the corn. Mr. Dutton, his bulky frame tense, a shovel in hand. "This the last of it?" he whispers, his voice rough. Barlow nods, his tone sharp. "Finish the job, Dutton. C.W. wants this field dead by morning or we don't get paid." Dutton hesitates, gripping the shovel. "I didn't sign up for this, Barlow. Poisoning crops, scaring folks. It's gone too far." Barlow stands, towering over him. "You're in too deep to back out now. Dig the hole, like we planned." Miss Marple's heart races. A hole? For what? More evidence or something worse? She shifts slightly, her foot brushing a twig, and the snap echoes like a gunshot in the quiet. Barlow's head whips around, his lantern swinging. "Who's there?" He barks, his voice cutting through the night. Miss Marple freezes, her body pressed against the oak, praying the shadows hide her. Dutton mutters, "Just the wind, Barlow. Let's finish." But Barlow's not convinced, stepping toward the oak, his lantern raised. Her mind races. She's too old to run, and confrontation could be dangerous. Just as his light grazes the tree, a loud crack splits the air, not from her, but from the corn behind. Barlow spins, cursing, and darts toward the sound, leaving Dutton alone. Miss Marple exhales, realizing someone, or something, distracted him. Was it an animal, or another watcher in the fields? Seizing the moment, she creeps closer to the clearing, staying low, Dutton's digging now, his shovel biting into the earth, piling dirt beside a growing hole. Barlow returns, empty-handed, muttering about stupid foxes. He tosses an empty vial into the hole, followed by a bundle of papers, more letters, she guesses, like the ones she found. She needs those papers, but she can't risk being seen. Instead, she memorizes the spot, noting a crooked cornstalk nearby as a marker. Barlow and Dutton finish, covering the hole with dirt and scattering leaves to hide it. That's it, Barlow says. CW's man picks up the last crate tomorrow. Then we're done. They slip back into the corn, their lantern fading, leaving the field silent once more. Miss Marple waits, counting minutes to be sure they're gone, then approaches the clearing. Using her hands, she digs carefully, uncovering the buried bundle. It's a small sack, damp with soil, containing broken vials and 3 letters, all stamped with the wheat sheaf symbol. One is addressed to Barlow, detailing payment for land preparation, and signed by CW, with a London address. Another mentions a meeting tomorrow at the old barn near the river. Her pulse quickens. This is her chance to catch Barlow and his contact. She reburies the empty sack, keeping the letters, and heads back to the village, her steps swift despite the late hour. At her cottage, she spreads the letters on her table, the fire casting flickering shadows. The London address belongs to a company called Wheatfield Holdings, a name that screams money and motive. CW must be the mastermind, using Barlow to ruin the fields, perhaps to buy them cheap or force farmers out. But why St. Mary Mead, and why now? She thinks of the Blackthorne family, tied to the mill and the old legend. Could CW be a descendant seeking revenge or reclaiming land? She needs to know more about Wheatfield Holdings, and the barn meeting is her next lead. Before dawn, Miss Marple visits Mr. Clement at the church, hoping his records can trace the company. He's sleepy but obliging, pulling out dusty files. Wheatfield Holdings, he muses, flipping pages. I saw that name in a land sale last year. They bought a plot near the mill, but it's registered to a Charles Weston, CW maybe. Miss Marple's eyes light up. Charles Weston, a name to chase. She thanks him and heads home, planning to scout the barn before Barlow's meeting. The camera lingers on Miss Marple, her cottage glowing as dawn breaks. She's caught Barlow in the act, secured damning letters, and uncovered a name, Charles Weston. But the barn holds the final pieces of the puzzle, and danger waits. Next time, we'll follow her to the meeting, where a confrontation brings the truth into the light. Stay tuned for the next chapter, the mysteries unraveling fast. Chapter 9. The Barn Confrontation. The camera drifts over St. Mary Mead as dawn paints the sky in soft pinks, the river glinting like a silver thread beside the old barn. The village is still, its residents unaware of the plot unravelling in their fields. Miss Jane Marple moves quietly along the river path, her scarf tucked tight against the morning chill. Her bag holds a damning collection, letters from Wheatfield Holdings, a notebook detailing herbicide use, and clues tying John Barlow and Mr. Dutton to a scheme to poison the harvest, orchestrated by someone named Charles Weston, or CW, after catching Barlow and Dutton in the West Field last night. Burying evidence, Miss Marple learned of a meeting today at the barn. She's here to confront the culprits and uncover the mastermind. But the air feels charged, and danger lurks in the shadows. Let's follow her to the barn, where a tense encounter brings the mystery's truth into sharp focus. Miss Marple approaches the barn, its weathered timbers sagging under years of neglect. The structure sits by the river, half hidden by willows, its doors warped but ajar. She pauses, listening for voices, but hears only the rush of water and the rustle of leaves. Her plan is to observe, gather proof, and slip away to alert the authorities. But she's ready for a confrontation if needed. Tucking herself behind a stack of old barrels, she peers through a gap in the barn's slats. Inside, the dim light reveals stacks of hay, rusted tools, and a familiar sight. 2 crates marked with the wheat sheaf and scythe symbol, identical to those in the mill and shed. Her heart quickens. This is Barlow's final stash, and the meeting is imminent. A crunch of gravel signals someone's approach. John Barlow steps into view, his dark coat dusty, his face tense. He carries a small satchel, and his eyes dart around, checking for watchers. Moments later, Mr. Dutton arrives, his shovel slung over his shoulder, his expression grim. "This better be quick, Barlow," he mutters, wiping sweat from his brow. "I'm done with this," Barlow sneers, his voice low. "You'll be done when CW says so. He's coming now. Wants to see the jobs finished." Miss Marple's breath catches. Charles Weston himself is coming, the man behind the scheme. She adjusts her position, careful to stay hidden, her hand gripping the letters in her bag for reassurance. A third figure approaches, moving with a confident stride. He's older, dressed in a tailored suit, his grey hair neatly combed, a stark contrast to the barn's decay. This must be Charles Weston, CW. His face is sharp, like a hawk's, and he carries a leather briefcase. "Barlow Dutton," he says, his voice smooth but cold. "The Westfield's done, I trust." Barlow nods, gesturing to the crates. "Last of the herbicides here. Fields are dying as planned. Farmers'll sell cheap soon." Weston's lips curve, but there's no warmth. "Good. Wheatfield Holdings will own half of St. Mary Mead by spring. The Blackthorn land comes first." Miss Marple's mind races. Blackthorn. The family tied to the mill and the old legend. This is about land, revenge, or both. Dutton shifts uneasily, his shovel clattering. "I didn't sign up to ruin folks, Weston. You said it was just business." Weston's eyes narrow. "It is business, Dutton. My family lost that land centuries ago, stolen after Silas Blackthorn vanished. I'm taking it back." Miss Marple pieces it together. Weston, likely a Blackthorn descendant, is using the company to reclaim ancestral land by bankrupting farmers with poisoned crops. The Reaper's ghost was a ruse, spread to scare villagers and mask the sabotage, but she needs proof to stop them, and she's running out of time. Barlow opens a crate, pulling out a bottle of herbicide to show Weston. As he does, Miss Marple's foot slips on a loose stone, sending it skittering across the ground. The sound is small but sharp, and all 3 men freeze. "What was that?" Weston snaps, his hand dipping into his briefcase. Barlow grabs a pitchfork, scanning the shadows. Miss Marple presses herself against the barrels, her heart steady but her mind racing. She can't be caught now, not with the truth so close. Dutton, nervous, mutters, "Probably a rat." But Weston's not convinced, stepping toward the barrels. "Check it," he orders Barlow, who advances, pitchfork raised. Thinking fast, Miss Marple tosses a pebble toward the river, where it splashes loudly. Barlow spins, distracted, and Weston curses. "Forget it. Let's finish this." They return to the crates, but Miss Marple knows her time's short. She needs something concrete, something to take to the police. As Weston opens his briefcase, revealing stacks of cash and a contract with Wheatfield Holdings logo, she sees her chance. The contract names the farmers targeted for land purchase, their fields marked for sabotage. If she can get that, the case is airtight. But Weston's closing the briefcase, and Barlow's loading the crates onto a cart, ready to move. Seizing the moment, Miss Marple steps out, her voice calm but firm. "Good morning, gentlemen." The men whirl, stunned. Barlow grips his pitchfork. Dutton drops his shovel, and Weston's face hardens. "Miss Marple," Weston says, his tone icy. "Meddling, are we?" She smiles, unruffled. "I've seen enough, Mr. Weston. Poisoned crops, forged legends, and a plan to steal land. The police will be interested in your crates and that contract." Barlow lunges, but Weston stops him, his eyes calculating. "You've no proof, old woman," he says, but his hand tightens on the briefcase. Miss Marple holds up the letters from the Westfield, her voice steady. "These and the herbicide in your crates will do nicely. Shall we discuss this with the constable?" Dutton cracks, his voice shaking. "I told you, Barlow, it was too much. I'm done. He bolts for the door, leaving Barlow and Weston glaring at Miss Marple. Weston laughs, cold and sharp. "You're clever, but you're alone. This ends here." He nods to Barlow, who advances, pitchfork gleaming. But before he can act, a shout rings out. Tommy, the butcher's boy, with the village constable, Mr. Slack, charging toward the barn. Miss Marple had sent Tommy for help at dawn, suspecting trouble. Barlow drops the pitchfork, and Weston freezes, his briefcase slipping to the ground. "You're finished, Mr. Weston," Miss Marple says, as Slack cuffs Barlow. The camera lingers on the barn as the constable leads Barlow and Weston away, Dutton trailing, head bowed. Miss Marple picks up the briefcase, its contract damning evidence. She's unmasked the plot, but questions remain. How deep does Wheatfield Holdings' reach go? And will the village recover? Next time, we'll follow her to the police station, where the final pieces of the mystery fall into place. Stay tuned for the last chapter. The harvest's truth is revealed. Chapter 10. The Harvest Restored. The camera pans over St. Mary Mead, its fields golden under a crisp autumn sun, the village stirring with renewed hope. The old mill stands quiet, its secrets laid bare, and the river flows gently, cleansed of hidden poisons. Miss Jane Marple sits in the police station, a modest room with creaking chairs and a cluttered desk, where Constable Slack sorts through evidence. Her bag, now light, holds only her knitting, but her mind carries the weight of the mystery's resolution. After confronting John Barlow, Mr. Dutton, and Charles Weston at the barn, Miss Marple has unravelled their scheme to poison the harvest, driven by a London company's greed and an old family grudge. Today, she's here to tie up loose ends, reveal the full truth, and restore peace to the village. Let's join her for the final chapter, where every secret is laid bare, and St. Mary Mead breathes easy again. Miss Marple sips tea from a chipped mug, her calm demeanour a stark contrast to the chaos of yesterday's confrontation. Constable Slack, a gruff man with a grudging respect for her, spreads her clues across the desk. The cryptic note, the ledger, the blue fabric, the cigarette butt, the broken vial, the metal canister, the stained glove, the torn sack, the map, the notebook, the herbicide bottle, the receipt, the key, and the damning letters from Wheatfield Holdings, signed by C.W. Charles Weston. The contract from Weston's briefcase lies open, listing farmers targeted for land grabs. "You've outdone yourself, Miss Marple," Slack says, shaking his head. "But let's hear it all. How'd you piece it together?" She sets her tea down, her voice steady. "It began with the note under my door. The harvest hides the truth. Beware the reaper's shadow." It was meant to scare, to stir up the old blackthorn legend of a ghostly reaper. The village was already on edge. Wilting crops, missing tools, strange lights. I suspected a human hand, not a ghost. She explains her first clues. The button with a wheat sheaf engraving, found near the mill, and Tommy's tale of eerie whispers in the fields. The vicar's stories of Silas Blackthorne, a greedy farmer who vanished centuries ago, hinted at a motive tied to land or revenge. The stone circle in the fields, with its blood-like stain, was a staged fright, meant to keep villagers away while Barlow poisoned crops. Her investigation deepened at the river, where she found a canister, a glove, and a sack of broken vials, all marked with the wheat sheaf and scythe symbol. "The map I found there," she says, pointing, showed the mill and river as key spots, with a red X marking the mill. That led me to Mr. Dutton, who was nervous, secretive, and slipping to the mill with heavy sacks. At the mill, she and Tommy uncovered crates of herbicide, a receipt for agricultural supplies addressed to John Barlow, and a key to the shed. The shed revealed a notebook detailing the sabotage plan, targeting specific fields to ruin farmers and force land sales. Barlow was careful, she says, but careless too, leaving the cigarette butt, the fabric. The key, the Westfield stakeout confirmed Barlow's role, pouring poison under Dutton's reluctant watch. and the buried letters named Charles Weston as the mastermind. Weston, a Blackthorn descendant, used Wheatfield Holdings to reclaim land lost when Silas vanished, she explains. He hired Barlow to poison crops, driving down prices so his company could buy cheap. The Reaper legend was revived to mask their work. Lights, whispers, a shadowy figure, all staged to scare. Dutton, tied to the Blackthorns by blood, was coerced with money and threats, his mill a hub for storing herbicide. The contract listed farmers like Mr. Green and Mrs. Hattie's brother, whose lands bordered the mill's plot, now owned by Weston's company. Slack leans back, impressed. "And the barn?" Miss Marple smiles faintly. "I knew Barlow and Weston were meeting there, thanks to the letters. I went to catch them. And when Weston revealed his plan, buying half the village's land, I stepped out. Risky, but Tommy and you arrived just in time." Slack nods, admitting he doubted her until the evidence piled up. Barlow and Weston are in custody, charged with sabotage and fraud, while Dutton, cooperative, faces lesser charges. Wheatfield Holdings is under investigation. Its London office raided this morning, uncovering records of land deals tied to Weston's scheme. Miss Marple leaves the station, stepping into the village square. The air is fresh and children play among the last festival decorations. She visits Mrs. Hattie, who's baking again, her hands steady now. "Jane, you saved my brother's farm," she says, offering a warm loaf. Miss Marple smiles, accepting it. At the tea shop, Mrs. Rose pours her a cup, gossiping about the village's relief. "No more ghosts, Jane," she says, laughing. Miss Marple nods, but her mind lingers on the fields. The poison's damage will take time to heal, but the farmers are resilient, and the harvest will recover. She walks to the west field, where the old oak stands proud. The corn is patchy, but new shoots are already sprouting, a sign of hope. Tommy runs up, grinning. "Miss Marple, you're a hero," she chuckles, patting his shoulder. "Just a neighbour, Tommy, keeping an eye out." Back at her cottage, she spreads her knitting on her lap, the fire crackling. The mystery solved. Weston's greed, Barlow's poison, Dutton's complicity, all tied to a centuries-old grudge. The Reaper's shadow was no ghost, but a man's ambition, unmasked by a woman's sharp mind. The camera pulls back, showing St. Mary Mead bathed in sunlight, its fields stirring with life. Miss Marple's cottage glows, a beacon of quiet strength. The harvest is safe, the village whole, and our sleuth rests, ready for the next puzzle. That's the end of Miss Marple and the Haunted Harvest, folks. If you loved this cozy mystery, hit that like button, subscribe, and comment below. Tell us what you thought. Your support means the world, and we'll see you for the next adventure.